Okay, and now it's time for our weekend recap. We're going to kick it off with the Ferreira versus Ferreyra fight that headlined an MVP show last night. Beatrice, the champion, versus Maria, the challenger. Some questions that still need answers. Why did Most Valuable Promotions want to borrow Beatrice Ferreira to headline one of their shows? Is she not still with Matchroom?
The fight.
Then the fight, you saw everything you expect to see from Beatrice, and to a lesser extent, you saw everything you expected to see from Maria, a hard-nosed Argentinian slugger with not as many bells and whistles to her as Beatrice, more direct in her approach, which left her on the receiving end of a lot of punches, a lot of combinations.
To Beatrice Ferreira, slipping punches, rolling punches, fighting on a swivel.
It's not just the stuff that was going on upstairs, it's also the stuff that was going on downstairs. Beatrice Ferreira beating those feet, making herself a tricky target.
The difference in pedigree was noticeable. That's not to say that Maria didn't land anything. Here and there, she got in with some decent-looking punches.
Clearly, not as many as Beatrice did, but she was able to push back, push harder than any of Beatrice's opponents before her.
Hard-nosed Argentinian fighters have a habit of doing that.
Ultimately, it was angles and footwork that told the story. All the angles and all the maneuvering of Beatrice Ferreira is what won her the fight. Not just aggression, not just combinations, but the angle of attack.
That's what separated them.
Maria seemed a noticeably more simple fighter than Beatrice, more direct in her approach, and thus more vulnerable.
A spirited effort.
And I want to say that Maria gave a good account of herself, that if it's somebody else, they would struggle with Maria a lot more than Beatrice did. Beatrice has a lot of tools. She brings a lot to the table, and it all comes together under the hot lights. But I don't think everybody would do to Maria what Beatrice did to Maria.
Yeah, she's tough. You got to keep an eye out for her.
So what happens next for the reigning IBF champion? It just so happens that MVP set it up to where Stephanie Han, the reigning WBA lightweight champion, was ringside for the fight, and they set up a mock face-off between Beatrice and Stephanie. Now, I don't know specifically why MVP would want to get behind that, or this feeling that MVP is promoting Beatrice.
Quero provar para todo mundo que eu sou a dona dessa categoria. Então, todas que têm um cinturão de 135 libras, eu sei que tem uma, a Stephanie tá aqui, então eu acredito que ela iria gostar muito de fazer uma luta comigo pra gente botar esse cinturão de jogo. Eu super topo, se você aceitar, vamos junto, vamos fazer esse show pra galera aí do boxe feminino.
We got a yes over here. Okay, Stephanie said she would love to fight you. You ready for this? We're gonna make this happen?
Vamos fazer acontecer. É só me falar a hora, o lugar que eu vou estar pronta, assino o contrato na hora.
I would love the opportunity to fight Beatrice. She's an absolute beast, and in our division it's very unique because we all have a belt, but obviously our ultimate goal is to become the undisputed champion, so to do that we have to take the belts away from each other, so I would love the opportunity.
Orlando!
Aí a Bia recebendo e aceitando o desafio. E eu acredito que vai ser uma grande luta.
Não, a Bia é incrível, né? Ela acabou.
It's hardly a coincidence that Stephanie Han, of all people, was ringside for this fight, a native of El Paso, Texas, promoted by King's Promotions, with a fight coming up. If she was there, it's likely because she was invited. It's likely because MVP set it up, and it might be because they want to get behind this fight.
Yeah, they've borrowed fighters that are with other promotional outfits before for their shows. This could be another instance of them doing that, to see a unified champion crowned in the lightweight division. Now, I half expected that Stephanie Han down the line would face Holly Holm.
Since MVP signed Holly, and since Holly is competing as a lightweight now, what I figured was they'd get Holly one or two easy ones, then have her fight Stephanie. But if they want to make a fight between Stephanie and Beatrice, I'm certainly not against it.
Beatrice beats her.
I respect Stephanie Hahn. I like her very much, and I admire what she's been able to do in a short amount of time since mounting her professional boxing career, but make no mistake, if they make that fight anytime in the near future, Beatrice beats her soundly.
You'd think maybe they're trying to inject Holly Holm in that conversation? I mean, maybe what they do is they have Holly fight this girl she's about to fight. If she wins, then they put her in there with Stephanie, and then they put the winner of that fight in there with Beatrice. Could they be doing it that way?
Well, there's a lot of ways it could break down, but the bottom line is Stephanie was not there by accident last night. Ringside for Beatrice Ferreira's fight, that wasn't by accident, that was by design. So to some extent, MVP is interested in staging a unification match.
They must be.
Another great showing from Beatrice Ferreira. She got pushed a little harder in this fight than her previous fights, but she needs that. She needs that experience against a hard-nosed Argentinian slugger that can take one to give one.
Japan.
Earlier today in the Land of the Rising Sun, champions Junto Nakatani and Ryosuke Nishida squared off in what was their unification match for the Ring Magazine, WBC, and IBF titles.
It's the first unified champion at bantamweight that's been crowned since Inoue used to campaign here.
In the fight, both boys got off to a fast start with the understanding going in that Junto Nakatani is not only the more experienced and decorated fighter of the two, but he's also the harder puncher, and that was evident. Would seem that Ryosuke Nishida elected to try and fight fire with fire, but was ultimately outgunned as they both got off to a very fast start in the early goings of the fight. And Ryosuke was holding his own for a bit, mid-range to inside.
In the phone booth, in the pocket, whereas Junto needed a little bit more room to get his punches out and get his punches off.
Though not before letting go of many, many hellacious uppercuts, many of which landed on Ryosuke's gloves, arms and gloves.
That was at the start.
Junto Nakatani went for the uppercut many, many times, but a lot of the time it was getting blocked. It was landing on Ryosuke's arms and gloves. There must have been some instruction from Rudy Hernandez, who trains him, to stop wasting his punches and switch it up, because Ryosuke is expecting the uppercut. You're getting predictable.
So we see Junto Nakatani move around a little more, give himself a bit more room to throw a little more. He starts getting in with some hard backhands.
Remember that Junto is a southpaw, so his backhand is the left hand, coming around the side and doing a lot of damage to Ryosuke Nishida's right eye.
They're both southpaws, Junto and Ryosuke. It was a battle of the unbeatens, a battle of the champions, and a battle of the southpaws.
But Junto was just the better, stronger man, as stated. It would seem that Ryosuke made a decision to try to fight fire with fire, but he didn't have the bigger guns in the gun show. 2-3 rounds, the strategy changes a little bit. Junto's giving himself more room to work, and it's working. He's getting in with hard punches, and Ryosuke is wearing his handiwork on his face, starting to breathe heavy. Swelling is forming, and he's slowing down his output.
Started off as a valiant effort, turned out to be a losing strategy.
Fight progresses, and the swelling is getting worse and worse, to where Ryosuke Nishida's eye is completely shut, and he's on the receiving end of a lot of punches. It's not getting better.
I think it was at the end of the 6th round they decided to stop it.
Rightfully so, given the aesthetic of the fight and the direction that it was going. There was no point in sending Ryosuke back out there. Ringside, 4-weight, 2-time undisputed champion Naoya Inoue was there, surveying the action and, let's be honest, scouting Junto Nakatani, who many of us expected to win this fight, and he did. And in so many words, he said, "Welcome to the Super Bantamweight division. It would be exciting to see such a strong Japanese fighter."
So was this Junto Nakatani's last performance at 122 pounds? Will he not go for the 2 alphabet titles, the other ones held by the other 2 champions?
There's talk of a unification match between them, and before this weekend's fight, there was talk of Junto perhaps moving up to featherweight, moving up to 126 for what Rudy Hernandez said is a Rafael Espinoza fight.
Wait, so they want to move past 122? If you're supposed to be fighting Inoue in May, tentatively, why would you then go to 126?
I figure that they would prefer to have the fight there because it favors Junto a little more since he has a bigger frame than Inoue to carry more weight, and they'd be the reigning champion in that situation. What they're trying to do is get the drop on Inoue, beat him to featherweight, which favors them more than it favors Inoue.
No, I don't know if it's going to happen that way. I don't know if the next time we see Junto it's going to be at 126, but it is something that Rudy Hernandez entertained, and it's not far off. They mentioned Rafael Espinoza. I think that's the most dangerous fight at featherweight for anyone, for everyone, let alone a fighter moving up. A more realistic option, I think, is Angelo Leo, because he just fought in Japan, and he, like Junto, is a fighter who would be moving up.
A fighter who moved up.
Nakatani versus Inoue is on course to be the biggest fight in the history of Japanese boxing, and one of the biggest fights in the sport right now. The day these two guys share the ring with each other, the world will be watching. And so far, Junto Nakatani, to me, seems the most dangerous adversary for Inoue.
More dangerous than Bam. More dangerous than anybody at 122 pounds.
What about feather?
I think that a fight with Junto is in fact more dangerous than some fights at feather. I would say a fight with Junto is more dangerous than a fight with Nick Ball, more dangerous than a fight with Angelo Leo, and certainly more dangerous than a fight with Stephen Fulton, because he knew he already beat Stephen Fulton.
And Fulton beat Leo.
Now what about Rafael Espinoza? I would say that's the most dangerous fight of them all, but that's only one champion out of 4. At featherweight, you could argue that Junto is more dangerous than 3 out of the 4 champions at featherweight right now. I identify him with his size and strength, his accuracy and his volume, his gusto, his moxie.
As I watched him rain blows down upon Ryosuke Nishida, as I watched him crowd Ryosuke and let go of uppercut after uppercut after uppercut, I just wondered, I wonder how Inoue's gonna deal with this guy.
Are we looking at a passing of the torch between Inoue and Junto? Is Junto Nakatani the next great Japanese superstar? He certainly looks the part.
He makes me proud to be Japanese.
You're not Japanese.
I am when he's fighting.
Over to the United Kingdom, Ipswich more specifically, where we were in for a real treat. I mean, a real show.
I think that Wardley versus Huni is another great example of what separates the heavyweight division from every other division beneath it. It's a division where anything can happen, no matter what you thought going in.
And in some instances, no matter what direction the fight is going, once it starts, anything can happen at any given moment. Fabio Wardley got off to a horrific start in what was his big homecoming fight, and it seemed like another example of the homecoming curse, that a lot of these guys, when they fight in front of the hometown crowd, it's either they're distracted or, I don't know.
He was well on his way to losing his fight, man. He was getting swept.
The difference in pedigree between Justice Huni and Fabio Wardley was evident for the vast majority of this fight. You're talking about variety, you're talking about punch selection, movement, defense.
You're talking about cardio. You're talking about fitness.
It was getting bad. It was getting really bad for Fabio Wardley as the fight progressed.
So what we saw was Justice Huni is a fleet of foot fighter with foot speed and hand speed, combinations and head movement, because so often Fabio tried for the straight punches, which are his best punches, and you'd see Justice Huni slip and counter, roll and counter.
He was killing Fabio with those counters, man.
Killing him while staying on top of him. He was wearing him out and wearing him down. Fabio Wardley badly gassed, breathing heavy, bleeding from his nose and mouth.
Backed into the ropes as Justice Huni would consistently rain blows down upon him. Combinations, all while being tricky, mid-range to inside. And bear in mind that Justice Huni took this fight on short notice. It was getting bad for Flavio. It was getting really bad. But in the 10th round, a well-timed, well-executed counter right hand down the middle ended the contest. Quite abruptly, I might add.
Referee John Latham seemed in a hurry to end the contest as soon as Fabio found his way back into the fight, because he waved it off at the count of 5.
In the 10th round, you're talking about Fabio Wardley being down at least 7, going on 8 rounds. Badly bloodied, tired, backed into the ropes, so that as soon as he scores a knockdown, John waves it off. didn't give Justice Huni the benefit of the doubt, even though he deserved it.
The guy had swept the last 7 going on 8 rounds, that he deserved a lot more consideration than what John gave him, but thus is the sport of boxing when you're the away fighter.
Mixed feelings. I credit Fabio Wardley for being able to even land a peach of a right hand like that so late into a fight that he is so clearly losing, badly bloodied, breathing heavy.
But still in the fight. Mentally, he didn't check out. Fabio is a dog. He doesn't have the amateur pedigree that a lot of these other guys have.
But he's a real fighting man in the fighting sense of the word. He doesn't put on for the cameras.
He's not loud. He's not obnoxious or overbearing. He's not a narcissist. He just goes out there, does what he does, and I admire him.
He found the victory in what I think is one of the more dramatic comeback rallies I've seen in recent memory, because he was well on his way to losing his fight.
He needed a punch from the gods, and he found it.
And that is what separates the heavyweight division from every other division beneath it. Every single fighter there is always one punch away from being knocked out, even in a fight that they're winning in lopsided fashion. Is Justice Huni chinny?
No. It's a heavyweight division. You're always one punch away from being knocked out, and Fabio Wardley is not exactly pillow-fisted, is he?
Fabio would have hit any other heavyweight in the heavyweight division the same way he hit Justice, they would have went down too. It's not that Justice Huni is chinny, it's that this is the heavyweight division.
That's what makes it what it is.
So Fabio Wardley comes one step closer to challenging for an alphabet title, a full title. He's in line to take on the winner of Hunter versus Pulev, which is supposed to be promoted by Don King.
Don King is still alive?
Just barely, and still promoting boxing matches in Florida. Likely gonna have Hunter and Pulev fighting in some shoebox down there, and Fabio is in line to fight the winner of that fight, and whoever wins that fight comes closer to becoming WBA champion. Closing thoughts. Justice Huni is not chinny. This is the heavyweight division. Any guy gets hit like that, he's going down. So it's not that he's chinny, it's that Fabio hits hard, and John Latham chose to end the contest early. He didn't give Justice Huni enough consideration. Fabio Wardley, he's a dog. What he lacks in amateur experience, he makes up for in heart, grit, and determination. And he has all the potential to become the next big superstar in the UK boxing scene.
We could argue that John Latham shouldn't have waved it off as quickly as he did, but that's not Fabio's fault. You really can't blame him for that.
Justice Huni gave a great account of himself as a short-notice opponent, and they should probably take him back to Australia, get him 1 or 2 easy ones before they put him in a big fight, but so far so good.
This is not the end of Justice Huni. It's still very early in his career. People tend to forget they thought it was the end of Joseph Parker when he got stopped by Joe Joyce, but look at him now.
Same thing applies to Justice Huni, who's only 26 years old. He's really just getting started, and he can learn from this.
Never take your eyes off the ball, never get too comfortable.
Never let the fight get away from you the way that this one did, due to a momentary lapse in judgment, because that's all it takes for the other guy to find his way back into the fight. Overall, very entertaining, and I think it saved the weekend.